You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Omlor, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Omlor International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Business Wealth Impact. We have a very special guest. Sharon Lechter is with us. Sharon is internationally recognized as a financial literacy expert, keynote speaker, and business mentor. She's a 5 times New York Times best-selling author, successful entrepreneur, philanthropist, and enjoyed a 35-year career as a licensed CPA. And she has advised 2 U.S. presidents on the topic of financial literacy. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be with you.
Delighted to have you. So there's so many things I want to ask you. We're going to dig into how that was, consulting with 2 presidents of the United States, because that's fascinating. But before we do that, I'd love to hear more about the younger Sharon and what you went through to get where you are right now.
Well, absolutely. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version because I've been around a long time. But I grew up in a very lower middle class home. My parents, neither one had high school diplomas. My dad ended up running the engineering school for the Navy, so he was brilliant and totally self-taught. But we lived in a little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. We had rental properties that I had to go scrub out the bathrooms between tenants. We owned orange groves, one of which now is part of SeaWorld. So my dad talked about the cash flow from the orange crop every year. And so we had those kind of conversations. And yet my friends' parents were CEOs or military officers. So I was embarrassed by where I came from. And, I'm sad to say that now, but I was. And I said, I want to be a sophisticated professional. So I put my sights on graduating from college. I was the first generation to go to college and got my degree in accounting, only woman in my accounting classes. And then I was one of the very few first women in public accounting. I started my career in Atlanta, Georgia back in 1976. And so it was a great opportunity, young, single in Atlanta. It was wonderful. And I was working incredibly long hours, being very successful, rising through the ranks. But about the ripe old age of 25, I'm going, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. I'm not in control of my own life. And all of a sudden, my parents started looking a whole lot smarter. But I also discovered that most people did not have the same understanding of finances, understanding of the importance of buying, building, create income producing assets. And that's what I was immersed in, understanding the power of having our own businesses, our own real estate properties. And so I really understood why so many people were struggling financially. So I had a client invite me to go with him in buying a company out of bankruptcy. And I went back to my condo and said pros and cons of leaving or staying public accounting, because this was before PCs or cell phones. So it was the old yellow legal pad. And it didn't help me a bit. I could argue both sides, but my hand took off across the top of the page and said, why not? And that is still my philosophy many, many years later. Why not do something different? Why not take the path less traveled? Why not solve a problem or serve a need? And that's the essence of entrepreneurship. The most successful businesses solve problems and serve needs. And so I never looked back. I left public accounting. It ended up being a colossal mistake. We got into this company, we bought it and found all kinds of corruption. So couple months later, I decided, okay, what am I going to do? I ran away for a couple of weeks, came back. And because it had been in bankruptcy, the company prior to us buying it was involved in litigation. And there were attorneys there doing what they call discovery in a lawsuit. And there was a young man in my office. They waited for me to get back from being on vacation to go through my office. And his name was Michael Lechter. And we've just celebrated being together 44 years.
Oh, wow.
And I tell people, Napoleon Hill said, out of every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. My worst business decision gave me my best life decision. And so
Mm.
things happen to us. And too many of us, particularly women, we have a mistake. We feel like it defines us, but it doesn't. It's just an occurrence. And so
Mm.
we go, okay, that happened. Let's learn from it and keep moving forward. And
Mm.
so that started my entrepreneurial career. And as I said, I've never looked back. We had children, they didn't like to read. So I met the inventor of the first talking children's book. And this was when kids, it's really dinosaur times, I know. They didn't have
Mhm.
electronics back then. And so the books with little sound strips down the side, and parents didn't know us. So we said, how can we get them to trust us? So we did licensing deals with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame
Mm.
Street. And that allowed us to explode that technology around the world. We went from 1 million to 9 to 23 on our way to 52 million. We sold the
Mm.
company. And that's when my husband and I moved here to
Mhm.
Arizona. And our oldest son in 1992 went to college here at ASU, and he left in September, came home in December in credit card debt. That was December of 1992. I was so upset with him, but I was more mad with myself because we taught
Mhm.
him about money, but we didn't know he had credit cards. He got
Mhm.
to campus and there was a free t-shirt, free money, free pizza, free money. He had a really good time his first semester in college. And then that was December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial education, financial literacy, and supporting entrepreneurs in creating success in their lives. And I'm as passionate about it today as I was back
Mm.
then. And so, fast forward a few years, I was working with school systems trying to get financial education. And that's when I met Robert Kiyosaki at a beta test for the game Cash Flow. And I volunteered to help him just as a friend because of my experience with a talking book. We also did games to commercialize the game Cash Flow. And during that process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for it. And I go, that's pretty pricey for a board game in
Mhm.
1996. And so I said, maybe you should write a brochure that explains the philosophy. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. We became equal partners and wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad together. It was written as a
Mhm.
marketing tool. Not We didn't expect it to take on a life
Mm.
of its own. So that started a 10-year partnership or business co-owners. And we did 15 books together. And in 2007, we were no longer aligned. He wanted to go into franchising. I did not think it was a good model for the
Mm.
franchisee. So I made the decision to leave at the
Mhm.
height of our success, really not knowing what the future was, but I couldn't stay where I
Mhm.
wasn't committed personally in what they wanted to do. And so a few months later, I'm kind of having one of these pity party moments like, what's next? I thought Rich Dad was
Mhm.
my legacy. And I get this phone call from the White House. President Bush asking me to be on the very first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. Oh my gosh, what
That's
an
exciting.
incredible opportunity. And I served in that capacity for both President Bush and
Mhm.
President Obama. And if you think about what was happening in
Mhm.
2007 and 8, it was a very dramatic time for finances. People were struggling, real estate market bubble had burst. So it was a very important time to really pull together and say what we can do to support the American people. But in the same time, March of '08, I got the phone call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and I knew them because we were at the same book shows, and wonderful man, Don Green. And he asked me to step in. He had just learned that I had
Mm.
left Rich Dad. And he asked me to step in to revitalize the teachings of Napoleon Hill, given what was happening in the
Mm.
economy. Another incredible honor. And I was just blown away, having just built the world's largest personal finance brand, and then to be asked to step into the world's largest personal development brand to help revitalize it was an incredible honor. And at the same time, a real message to me, because this is why I share my story. Sometimes you have to
Mm.
close the door, not knowing what's
Mhm.
on the other side. You have to close one door for other doors to open. Had I not left Rich Dad, I wouldn't have been gotten the call from the president. I wouldn't have gotten the call from Napoleon Hill
Mm.
Foundation. And so God has a lot of things in
Mhm.
store for you. And sometimes we hold on to the past. And sometimes we need to close that door so that the future opportunities
Mm.
can find us or we can
Right.
find them. And so that's, a huge message I give to people is we get so comfortable into our own little comfort zone that we miss lots of
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. And so I've written 4 books in cooperation with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Great opportunity, great company to work with. And then I also wrote Exit Rich with Inc. magazine, talking about how to build not just a successful business, but one that is sustainable, scalable, and
Mm-hmm.
saleable, talking about foundational elements you need to create a strong business. And then I've also written my most recent book, just out within the last few months, is called How Money Works
Ah.
for Women: Control It
Mm-hmm.
or Lose It. Right. And that's really the essence of, and I'm really excited about this book. It's different than anything else I've written. It's 4 colors,
Mm-hmm.
like a graphic novel. And I take women from every decade of life, from 19 to
Mm-hmm.
86, and talk about the various financial issues we find ourselves in, from
Mm-hmm.
college debt, planning a
Mm-hmm.
marriage, a wedding, starting a business, having a special needs child and having to change how
Mm-hmm.
you earn money, being in a relationship that becomes abusive and you have to start over
Mm-hmm.
again with 2 children. Another one is having been married for 25 years, looking forward to your golden years together, and your husband asks for a divorce, and you haven't established
Mm-hmm.
your own credit, and the dramatic things that happen to women. So, the importance of women taking control, because there's a couple of stats that I think are pretty dramatic. 80% of men
Mm-hmm.
die married, 80% of women
Mm-hmm.
die single. And that the issue is we
Yes.
live longer. So that's the good news. But the bad news
Mm-hmm.
is we live longer because we haven't taken time to establish our own credit, to establish our own
Mm-hmm.
financial well being. And by 2030, women in the United States will control 2/3 of all personal
Mm.
wealth. So, with that, it's a huge responsibility. We need to understand how to
Mm-hmm.
receive it, how
Mm-hmm.
to invest it, how to make it grow, how to preserve it for future
Mm-hmm.
generations. And so that's one of the reasons, one of the big reasons why I wrote this particular book, helping women identify things that they're
Mm-hmm.
going through that they can deal with. Another one of the gals in the book, she has her adult father or senior father have to move in with her so she could take care of him, and her adult son moves back in. So this is a true sandwich generation, and that
Yeah.
happens more often than not. So I'm really excited about it. It's really an incredibly thought provoking, and can help every woman find something that can support them
It
in
sounds.
creating a better financial future.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of brings me to where I am today. Lots of other things have happened, but my biggest
Mm-hmm.
message is, remember, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not answer the call? Why not solve a problem, serve a need? And sometimes you need to close a door for other doors to open.
Mm. So I love the sound of your book. And actually, when you said, out of a marriage with 2 kids on your own, that was me. I was thinking, oh, that was the stage I went through. So it sounds amazing because it sounds like it's just addressing all ages of women in all stages, and we're going to find something that we're going to go through or have been through or going through right now, and how to deal with it. So that is a unique book. I haven't heard one that addresses it in that way. So I'm fascinated with the whole close. You're right about, you can't accept stuff into a full cup. If you have a full cup, then you can't accept any more into that cup. But sometimes if you pour some water out of the cup, then you can accept something else. That's kind of like closing the door to then be an open enough space to allow something new in. So that's a huge thing. And I really agree with that. The other thing you said was women define themselves by their mistakes. I agree. Now, do you think that men do that too? Or is it mostly women that do that?
Well, some men do, but it's like you have a mistake and it makes you feel less than, not worthy, and it's like carrying around an old sack of potatoes. I think more often than not, men go, okay, that happened, keep moving, because
Mm,
they start off with a bit more strength in their inner self-confidence. Now,
mm.
obviously, every time you make a general statement, there are people that fall out of that
Yes.
general
Yes.
rule. But overall, women tend to be nurturers. We tend to um, judge ourselves through the roles we play. I often
Mhm.
do this exercise where I have write down 1-word descriptors of who you are. right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll do this in a room of 200 people. And so when I did this exercise, I was a wife, mother, grandmother, author, entrepreneur, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't write my own name. And only 2 out of 100 women will write their own name because
Mm-hmm.
we judge ourselves through the eyes of other people. We judge ourselves through the roles we play. And
Mm-hmm.
so it took me a lot of years to learn that if I'm a better Sharon, then I'm a better wife, mother,
Mm-hmm.
grandmother, writer, entrepreneur. And that's, particularly for women who are caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to take care of everybody else and we put ourselves last on the list.
Mm-hmm.
That is very much a female trait. There
Mm.
are men that qualify under that, but not very many. So,
I agree. Yeah. So what's your advice to getting over that? Like, okay, so we all make mistakes, and I know that I dwelled on my mistakes for way too long, and I thought, wait a minute, it happened, move on. What's your advice on how to process that more quickly to be able to move on? Just
well,
by
part of
saying I'm
that,
going to do it.
yeah. I mean, you need time to grieve. I'm not saying just ignore it. Obviously, you
Mm,
have a loss, you make a mistake, you need to accept the fact that that happened and allow yourself to go there and then say, okay, so what's the next step? Where do I go from here? And part of that, I have a personal success equation I'd like to share right now before I give the rest of the answer, because in it is the answer. The personal success equation is in my book, 3 Feet from Gold, which was the first book I did with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And it's a formula that starts with P plus T, passion plus talent. And
mhm,
so my passion actually came from anger. I was mad we weren't teaching kids about money in school.
mhm,
And talent was years in publishing and years as a CPA. I could combine those. And most of us stop there because we think we have to do everything on our own. But
mm,
that P plus T is followed by a times A, power of association. Who's on your team? Do you have
mhm,
people on your team who are strong where you are weak? Who are your mentors? One of my
mm,
greatest joys is being a mentor to other business owners, allowing them to see what's possible.
mhm,
Typically, I can see more for them than they see for themselves.
mhm,
I can steer them around pitfalls. I can make those introductions to other associations that can speed their way to success. And then times another A, action. How many times do you know what you're supposed to do? You just don't do it. And
mhm,
so it's such an incredible thing. And particularly if you're a procrastinator, but that power of association helps you. And then the whole thing comes together with a plus F, faith. Having
mhm,
faith in yourself, having faith in what you're doing, having faith that it's needed and necessary, and having faith that you will succeed. And
mhm,
far too many of us, that F is actually fear. We're our
mhm,
own worst enemy. We hold ourselves back. And so
mhm,
when you have that kind of downtime, when you have the right people around you, they won't let you stay there. So when I start working with someone, and I do every interview, I go through this formula. It's usually the power of association and the fear that have the problem, that lack of self confidence. And they do go
mhm.
hand in hand.
Yes.
Who do you need to have around you to elevate your own spirit, to elevate your own self confidence?
Mm. Yeah, no, I coach. I'm a coach. So for me, it's always the confidence thing. If people have confidence, then anything works really. It doesn't have to be a perfect plan, it doesn't have to be a perfect strategy. They have confidence, it's going to work no matter what. That's how I feel it. So once you get that piece, all the rest sort of works itself out because you attract those people and you attract what you're going to do. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So now you've been hugely successful. And I know it's not by mistake. I know you didn't just fall into one thing and another. I already know that. So, okay. What, and it wasn't all luck. I think you had some luck because I think some luck comes into something sometimes. Would you agree with that?
luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So
Right. Okay. So, what do you have in your personality, in your makeup, maybe even genetically? What Sharon have that got you to be so successful? That's what fascinates me because there's something in that. It didn't happen by accident.
well, it's a combination of things. I had a father that would ask me every night, Sharon, have you added value to someone's life today? So I have never been one that defines success by dollars. I think success is defined by how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. And he's been gone for 17, almost 18 years. And I still ask myself that every night. Have I added value to someone's life today? And so that's an overreaching piece of who I am and my desire to always support people putting themselves in a place of highest and greatest potential. Combined with why not? So many of us, we expect someone else is going to take care of that. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always been driven to, when I get mad about something, I start a new company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate to make the world a better place. And when COVID started, I started a new initiative called ATMs, daily ATMs, daily abundance tips and mentorship. It's a take off the
Mm.
ATM bank, but it's really for your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that there was so much negativity in the world, and there's still a lot of negativity today. And so every single day, I've over 1,500 messages since I started. I can be in your ear giving you positive messaging to start your day. You can go to atm.sharonlechter.com if you want more information about that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
just a passion of mine to help people find the light, find that next step. And people say, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm going, stop it. That means
Mm.
you're giving up your power. You're waiting for someone else to bring the
Mm-hmm.
light to you. Stand in your own power, be
Mm.
your own beacon of light, and you'll light the way for other people.
Right. I so believe in that we should not be waiting for other people to inspire us, to motivate us. We have to take it on ourselves and say, I am powerful, and not wait for other people to empower us, because that doesn't exist. We have to empower ourselves. So that's so interesting, because what I'm learning is that your parents had a lot to do with this mindset. And I know what you're saying. You thought, oh, I want to be like everybody else. And then you realize your parents were the cool ones. They were the cool ones, and they were ahead of the curve. So your dad and your I guess your mother also, your family, this did help you have this kind of a mindset, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I got out into the real world, I realized that most people had this tremendous fear about money because they grew up having parents that said things like, save for a rainy day, pinch your pennies, we can't
Mm.
afford it.
Mm.
And what do you think? Money grows on trees. All of those comments are negative. So you
Mhm.
grow up hearing these things, money negative, money negative, money negative. No wonder we end up with this scarcity mindset.
Mhm.
We're not being taught about money in school. We
Mm.
can't afford it is a term that just closes your mind. I tell everybody, don't say that. Instead, say, how can we afford it? Because that
Mm.
triggers your subconscious. It opens your brain, and your
Mhm.
subconscious goes to work finding ways that you can afford it. And when it's your children, they can get very creative. But the
Mhm.
greatest benefit is when they can afford something because they found a way to make the money. Let
Mhm.
them celebrate, because you're going to see their self confidence grow. Because as soon as a
Mm.
child knows how to make money on their own, there's no
Mhm.
stopping them. And so
Mhm.
I grew up in a household where we talked about money. We talked about assets. My favorite word on earth, assets. And the personal financial freedom occurs when the income from your assets, your passive income from assets, exceeds your monthly expenses.
Mhm.
And it does not have to be millions of dollars.
Mhm.
And that's so important. When I met Robert Kiyosaki, he lived in a 2-bedroom condo, and he had 2 small apartment complexes. He made $100,000 a year in passive income. His expenses were 35 to 40,000. He was
Mm.
financially free. That was the
Mhm.
message I wanted to take to the world, and we did.
Mm.
Assets, income producing assets. Every wealthy individual in the world, no matter where they live, no matter what language they speak, they have multiple streams of income from assets. And I
Mhm.
take it to the next level. Assets are sexy. And
Mhm.
then I take it to the third level. The older you get, the sexier they are, because they continue to provide for you. And when you have assets working for you, the greatest dividend is you get your time back. And that's
Mhm.
what you want, when you can look forward to spending more time with your children, your grandchildren, and know that the money is still going to come in.
Mm. And people are more hip to this now. There's more education about this thanks to you and other people. So that's a good thing. Um, so I'd love to hear, what was that like working for two presidents?
Well, completely different mindsets, as you can imagine.
Mhm.
One of the things that we did accomplish when I was working with President Bush, and then remember that was in the middle of the crash,
Mm-hmm.
we did get a law passed, the Credit Card Act of 2009,
Mm-hmm.
that prohibits credit card companies from going on to college campuses to solicit
Good.
college students. So
Mm-hmm.
I use that message. I can't take credit for the bill, but I was definitely a squeaky wheel. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really important to understand that you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Take the action. Don't be quiet. Solve a problem, serve a need. And so
Mm-hmm.
kids today do not have those same gauntlets of credit card companies. Do they get solicited? Of course they do. But that same act requires a student to show the ability to pay back,
Mm-hmm.
pay the credit card, or have a cosigner. And
Right.
so we each need to be responsible for ourselves, our family, our community by taking the action. Don't sit back and wait for someone else to do it.
Mm-hmm. So again, empowerment, not
Mhm.
have somebody else figure out everything for you. Then some people aren't in a position to actually take action. And that's, I think, when we have to say, okay, I can't take action on this one. So stop being upset about it unless you're going to do something about it. Right. That's what I think.
That's right. If
So,
it there's the 10-word sentence of two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. And I
mhm,
tell everybody, you are the CEO of your life, nobody else. You are. You're it. And so
right.
you want something, go for it.
Mm. Okay. And I'm also thrilled that you're teaching children. Have you had any um, influence on schools actually starting to teach financial literacy?
Yes, we now have 25 states that are by 2028 will require a student to have personal finance class before high school graduation. There are 33 states that include it in other, that either require the separate class or they include the standards within another class.
Mm-hmm.
I had the law passed here in Arizona in 2012, but we're going back trying to get it into a standalone personal finance class. And
Mm,
so we've seen a tremendous shift. A lot of states are on board now. And just about 7 or 8 years ago, there were only 7 states that had it, and we're up to 25 where there's a required separate class. And some of them, as I said, won't be implemented until 2028. But we're moving in the right direction. But if we truly want to make sure our children are prepared for the world they face, we would demand personal finance be taught to kids in high school. And
mm,
it's just criminal. It just makes me so angry. But
mm.
I'm not letting go. In fact, I just met with a state board of education last week here in Arizona, so I'm continuing to drive the fact home.
Actually, I think it should start. I actually bought Cash Flow for Kids.
Mhm.
I bought that. My kid was like 3 and she was learning how to play it. So I thought, well, that's a good start. I actually think it should start way earlier because by the time people are in high school, they already have, as you said, all this money mindset, bad money mindset. It's not too late. It's never too late, but it would be way better to start them way earlier in very simple ways. Like
People
I
ask me
had,
all the time, when should we start teaching? I said, how old do you think a child is when they know the difference between a $1 bill and a $20 bill? And
mm,
3 is usually the right answer,
yeah.
3 or 4. And I
Hmm.
go, that's when you need to start. They see the spending power. They got
Hmm.
that. Let's educate them on the earning power.
Mm. Actually, when my kids were very young, I made them sell lemonade in Greenwich Village, okay, under the arch, okay? And I showed them that I bought the materials and how much they cost. So the cost, the sugar, lemons, and I showed them, here's the dockets, here they are. And I helped them make it, okay? And we wheeled this esky, like the cooler to Greenwich Village to, the park. And we put up this little table and we sold something like 75 cups of lemonade for $1 in about 90 minutes. My
Mhm.
kids they were like, I think they were 3 and 6,
Yeah.
and they were sitting there and so cute, and it was hot, and they felt so empowered that they had sold 75 cups of lemonade and made $75. And then I said to them, but you did not make $75 because I'm deducting the costs. So they learned about the material costs. I
Mhm.
took the receipts and I said, well, this is how much. They're like, oh. I said, so you're going to pay me back what I paid because I gave you a loan. I loaned you the money for the materials. And they were like, oh, okay, mom. But still, they made quite a bit of money. And I split it and I gave them their money. And I asked, what are you going to do with it? And I don't know, I'll buy candy. I said, do whatever you want. I think one of my daughters actually saved it. But to me, I think those lessons of just simple economics and costs versus revenue and profits and losses and all of that, they learned so much, and then they played in the park.
Yeah, I have a product called the Biz Kit, and it really comes with a little briefcase, and it goes through a process of helping a child go through a 7-step process of starting a business as to what the
Hmm.
problem is, what they're going to do, what are they going to name it, how are they going to account for it, how are they going to they get the profits, and you go through these 7 steps, and then at the end, there's at the end of each section is a page of questions, and when they're done, they've actually created a business plan, and it
Mm,
can start from the age, there's a mentoring guide in there. So it's very young children can do it with the help of a mentor, or teenagers can do it. And then I also have the game Thrive Time for Teens, which is a fun,
mm,
humor filled board game that
hmm,
teaches kids about the importance of not only of how they spend their money, but how
hmm.
they spend their time.
Right.
And the fact that how you spend your money and how you spend your time will determine your level of success or not.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
I just love it. It's gotten all kinds of awards. Thrive Time for Teens. They're both available at my website,
Well, I'll
sharonlechter.com.
definitely buy that because my two daughters are teens now. Okay, so you've done a lot of right things. You're somebody that does not at all bask in regret or anything like that. However, what's something that you would have done differently? If you could go back, what is something that you would have done differently? And I don't mean regret, I just mean done differently.
Well, I appreciate the question. I get asked that question a lot, and my response is out of respect.
Hmm.
I When I get asked that question, I go, I love mentoring young women about
Hmm.
understanding and do whatever it takes, stand in your own power.
Hmm.
But to try and go back to my younger self would be mean that I'm not who I am today.
Hmm.
I am here sitting in this chair talking to you because of all my ups and downs. Now, I lost a son in 2012. So if I could go back and change something, I certainly would change that. But
Mm.
we can spend time looking back.
Mhm.
Sorrow, regret, angst is when you're looking back. Doubt
Mm.
and fear is when you're looking around. I want you to have
Mm.
faith in yourself looking forward. The future
Mhm.
is yours. If you put
Mm.
forth the energy and effort, you can accomplish anything.
That is so inspiring and so simple. Okay, so what is one thing that you would tell people? And there's so much involved with personal finances and assets and all of that and cash flow. What is one thing that you found comes up all the time for everyone that you would like to share with people, how to fix it or what to do?
Well, overreaching people, they put their head in the sands when it come in the sand when it comes to their money because of the fear. And
Mm.
if you take one step and just figure out where you are financially, even if the picture is bleak, you will feel empowered because you know more than you did yesterday. And
Mhm.
you may not be able to change the world economy or the national economy or state economy, but you can change your wallet. I
Mm.
have one client that went through one of my money mastery program, and in 3 months, she was able to get rid of $72,000 worth of bad debt. And
Mhm.
so the issue is it's not the credit card that's the problem. It's the person holding the credit card and
Mhm.
using the credit card is the problem. So it's your mindset about money that you need
Mhm.
to focus on. And all of my programs, all of my online programs, I have both mindset action steps and money action steps because they go hand
Mm.
in hand. If
Right.
you can't change the way you think about money, you're going to come right back to where you started.
Right. Okay, so it's fixed both of those neck and neck. Okay, well, I really appreciated you turning up and for your time and for your gems. What are some parting words before we close this? And also, where can people find you?
Absolutely. My website is my name, SharonLechter.com, SharonLechter.com. And you can reach out to me through that website if you're interested in mentoring. You can reach out to me if you would like me to speak to your group or if you would like to see the books and programs that we have available because we are here. My goal is to always support people and provide the tools in a cost supportive way that can help people create a better life tomorrow than they do today. And that includes both your time and your money. And if you wherever you are today, is a result of the choices you made before today.
Mm,
If you want something different, you want something better, just simply start making different choices today and
mhm.
find the mentor and the education that can help you learn what you don't know so that you can make the right choices for your future.
Right. Okay, that's a mic drop there. No better words than that to end this with. Sharon, again, thank you so much. And I hope that everybody has enjoyed this. We will also have the links to everything Sharon in the show notes, and I'll see you on the next one. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Omlor, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Omlor International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.